Welcome to Criminality. Let's take a dive into the dark history of the world's serial killers and most notorious criminals. For many years, the public has been fascinated by serial killers because of their horrific murders and enigmatic motivations. Is this the information you were really interested in? Then don't forget to subscribe for notifications in any newly uploaded video, and be till the end of the video so that you don't miss any important information. Many people have long been fascinated by and frightened by serial murders. These people, who are frequently referred to as monsters, have carried out some of the most horrifying crimes in recorded history. Numerous studies on the psychology of serial killers have been conducted recently in an effort to better understand what motivates them to carry out such violent crimes. Despite these efforts, many aspects of serial killers' minds are still unknown. Dr. Harold Shipman. The idea behind doctors is that we can all trust them. This makes the Harold Shipman case all the more terrifying. He was an English medical doctor who exclusively treated patients for the purpose of taking their lives. When one of his patients passed away unexpectedly in 1998 and a large sum of money was left to Shipman in a will that the family was unaware of, the police looked into the case and discovered indications of forgery. Contrary to the other names listed here, this name is a very well-known one. To begin with, between 1975 and 1998, the Dr. Death of Nottingham killed well over 200 patients under his care, the bulk of them elderly ladies. Only 15 of the killings involving morphine led to Harold Shipman's conviction, and he was given a life sentence in jail in 2000. 4 years later, he hung himself in his jail cell. Pedro Lopez. How about a known person born in Colombia whom authorities are now unable to find? Pedro Lopez, known as the Monster of the Andes, was a serial killer who operated throughout South America. It was hard to believe that only one individual could have committed such acts of violence. Lopez would be one of the most prolific serial murderers if he were speaking the truth. Lopez was detained in Ecuador in 1980 after attempting to kidnap someone. He was soon charged with 110 murders, but Lopez allegedly said that he may have killed more than 300 people. Before it was removed for offensive reasons, the Guinness World Records had him listed as the most prolific serial killer in 2006. Unfortunately, Lopez was deemed sane and released for good behavior in 1998. Pedro Lopez, a Santa Isabel native who also claims to have murdered more than 300 children, began preying on young girls in 1969 and frequently crossed international lines to carry out the atrocities he committed. Police were initially skeptical of his confessions. That is, until a sudden flood revealed some of his graves. The fact that the Monster of the Andes, who was detained in 1980 and released in 1998, is the thing that disturbs people the most. The 72-year-old's whereabouts are currently unclear. However, as of 2002, his exact whereabouts are unknown after he was connected to another murder. Ed Gein served as the model for a number of horror film villains, including Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs. Ed Gein was a sinister murderer. He was brought up by an abusive mother who instilled in him a negative view of women. One Bernice Warden disappeared in Wisconsin in 1957. Following a tip, the police went to Gein's remote home where they found a horrible scene and a catalog of objects manufactured from human remains on top of the dead warden. There were items manufactured by about 40 persons in all. Gein allegedly stole the majority of the corpses from graves. He was found guilty of murdering the warden in 1968 after being proven competent to stand trial. Gein spent the rest of his life in mental health facilities. Jeffrey Dahmer. When he was only 18 years old, Jeffrey Dahmer committed his first murder in 1978. After an African-American man escaped his grasp and flagged down police outside Milwaukee, Wisconsin, he continued to kill until his arrest in 1991. The images of dismembered bodies, the severed heads and genitalia of several other men, and a tub full of acid that Dahmer had used to dispose of some of his 17 victims were among the evidence found when the victim led police back to his captor's apartment, before being ejected by his grandmother and moving into the Milwaukee flat. Dahmer had lived a nomadic life, leaving both college and the army and staying with various family members. Dahmer was found guilty of drugging and sexually assaulting an innocent teenager 3 years prior to his arrest in 1991. He only served a year before being released, continuing his killing spree that almost exclusively targeted young men of color. The world's fascination with serial killers was rekindled by Dahmer's dramatic trial, which included graphic accounts of him eating the body parts of some of his victims and admissions of necrophilia. Dahmer was given a 957-year prison term in 1992, but 2 years later, another prisoner shot and killed him, Albert Fish. He went by several monikers, including the Gray Man and even the Boogeyman. Truthfully, Albert Fish was a troubled man who preyed on youngsters, so this isn't too far off. We can't exactly list down the crimes committed against them, but we can say that these are bad ways to go about things. Even more disturbingly, the insane Fish sent a letter to the mother of one of his victims outlining what he had done. 10 years after starting his axe murder spree, Fish was apprehended in 1934 after witnesses reported seeing him with missing children. Fish would confess to the killings but testify that he had over 100 victims. Fish, also known as the Werewolf of Wisteria, was a cannibal, serial killer, and murderer of children. As Holmes waits for his life to end, he maintains his calm. In 1896, Holmes was put to death for his horrific crimes. John Wayne Gacy. Wayne Gacy was a well-known socialite who enjoyed spending his weekends amusing youngsters while disguised as a clown. Although Gacy frequently appears as a clown at gatherings and parties, his true identity was as a serial killer of boys and men. The paranoid Gacy confessed to his attorneys in 1978, giving the police the information they needed to investigate his home and discover multiple human remains in the Crawl area. A crime of terrible proportions was committed when 29 people were buried in his Summerdale home, bodies smeared in lime and wrapped in plastic. The killer clown of Chicago, John Wayne Gacy, was the ultimate psychopath with two faces. By day, he worked as a thriving businessman, volunteer in the community, and entertainer for kids. However, at night, he operated an illegal cemetery beneath his home and was a cruel rapist who committed murder. Gacy is unquestionably among the top serial killers with regard to victim counts, with banners proclaiming "Kill the Clown, Kill Gacy." Thousands of protesters stood in a line at least a mile long in front of the prison. The public has always been fascinated with serial killers. They rank among the most infamous criminals in history, noted for their horrific deeds and frequently cruel tactics. While some have been apprehended and punished, the fact that these people are not to be honored in any manner as their crimes may have been interesting, it is impossible to ignore the suffering and pain they imposed on innocent people. Thanks for being to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and tell us what you think about this video below in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.